Hey, welcome back to Story Driven. Today I have Levi and Jesse with me.
How's it going?
And we're going to be talking about the making of Gam-Gam sausage, our cringiest short film yet.
Oh, for sure.
All right, Jesse, tell us what the story is of Gam-Gam sausage.
All right, so this story is about a date where this guy is insanely obsessed with his grandma and kind of scares away his date with his obsession.
Yeah.
And there's a nice surprise at the end.
Big surprise.
Big surprise.
So script to screen, let's talk about what we needed team-wise. Who do we have on our team?
So I directed.
Oh, I DP'd.
Yep. Jesse was
AD.
AD. We had Noah Reese on lights. Killed it just as normal.
Good old Wyatt was our key grip.
Wyatt was key grip.
Lil John Bybee. I love that guy. He was doing sound for us.
Gosh.
John is probably the most wonderful human being on this planet.
I
like him.
wish I had him around more because just his consistency with recording audio was, I have never had it that well. Because I was editor as well, so going back and all of his audio recording was so clean and precise and timed up so well with the camera, so couldn't have asked for a better sound guy.
And then your brother Isaac was doing slate and PAing for us this time.
Yep.
And then we had Mason playing Nick.
Mason understood the assignment.
And then Becca did wonderful as Katherine.
Yeah, absolutely.
She killed her reactions to just how cringy Mason has to be.
Wow. Thanks. And we had Josh play the coach.
Yeah, and Josh as the fitness instructor. One of the best casting choices we've ever made.
Yeah.
That was great.
And then a couple extras, which were just our regular crew that we always forced to be extras. We got Noah, Wyatt, and Jesse in the background. Okay, let's talk about our locations. We actually had a big change in the script. One of the scenes was no longer at a restaurant. It ended up being like a home-cooked meal. So Nick was actually cooking lasagna for Katherine. Yeah. I feel like it worked better for the story.
Definitely. It made the date seem like it had gone really well, and so that contrast of it suddenly not going very well really helped being in the house.
So what did that mean for our locations? What did we end up with?
Becca's apartment. Then we used Team Rhino, your family's studio, and that came in clutch for the workout studio and for the back of the building as well for the puke scene, which was actually the first scene we shot.
The funny thing about that scene is there's classes going on while we're filming it, like right on the other side of the door. And we're doing this hilarious puke gag, but we're also like...
No one would have known.
For the equipment that we used, the camera was a Sony A7 III, which performed wonderfully. We were really happy. And a decent step up from the GH5 and Pack Your Bags Kids. We actually didn't really have a lot for lighting, so Noah Reese wasn't working with a lot, but he still did wonderful. We had 3 newer light panels. Only 2 of them can go red, green, blue. And then we had an SL60W spotlight, and we put some gels in front of it. And then past that, it's just reflectors and diffusers. Yep. So not a lot of equipment went into this one.
Becca's interior of her apartment was really where we utilized all those lights, and we made, 2 a.m. look like 8 a.m., and it was awesome.
And then for our props list, there's actually quite a few things that we had to get ready. We had to buy a bunch of lasagna. I actually had to cook the sausage before the shoot. On the way in, I had like warm sausage in my props thing with me. Mason and I had to get some photos of some grandmas ready to go. So I picture him in Walgreens going up, like getting all these printed grandma photos and having to explain what the hell that we're up to.
And the gym posters.
Which Mason was actually able to reuse those for a TV pilot a few weeks later. So I'm glad that I bought them. All right, Levi, tell us how you did it, the throw-up gag.
The throw-up gag. So a lot of trial and error. You'll see I went from the very simple start of having some concoction in the mouth, spitting it out. I've done that countless times in films. And I wanted to make this a lot more intense and gross. So I thought of using a leaf blower and like attaching some sort of tube to it, and I ended up using a shop vac tube, which ended up being too wide to get enough air pressure through. So I used a smaller tube nothing was working. Nothing was coming out the way I wanted it to. So I went to Lowe's and I got about 1.5 feet worth of this like kind of heavy duty clear tube. It had a nice like natural curve to it. And I filled it up with water at first to test it out and just shot it. And it had this like explosive, nasty projectile that I was looking for. So I tried it with the concoction that we ended up using for Gam-Gam, and I was super happy with it. What I was worried about, obviously, was how are we going to make it come out where her mouth is and get it in the right placement. And we got it in one take. He had an extra set of clothes, identical clothes. We had a tarp underneath his feet for it all to splash down onto, and we could have done it twice. We had a ton of the concoction in a container. So.
And at Team Rhino, there was a shower ready to go. So it would have added a little bit more time there a day, but he could have just ran in, changed, showered. Changing the restaurant to a home-cooked meal. Why did we make that choice?
It worked out really well because, and the guy's obsessed with his grandma. It actually makes a lot more sense that he's at home cooking the meal, talking about grandma. The table scene was perfect, having their chemistry, and we had a lot more control over the ambiance of it and the lighting, and I think it turned out really well.
Yeah, and it helped us too because we cut out the waiter character.
Yep.
Which saved, probably 2 or 3 shots to incorporate a waiter now. And a big point of the show is that we write these in one sitting. The script needed a second draft, and that second draft was just a one location change. And it worked so much smoother, and it made more of a coherent story than the situation that we were in before.
And then for the makeout scene, and we'll get to this, but the makeout scene upstairs, I had Chance call action at one point, so because I couldn't get up there.
Oh, where they're like going up the stairs and down the hallway? Yeah. In that shot, like I'm pressed up against the wall. The camera's as far back as it can go. Mason and Becca's feet are in place, and they're like leaned out of the shot, and then they fly into it and then go to town.
Yeah.
I don't even think John could get in for sound.
Right.
At that point.
No, I think he was top of the stairs, just having the boom at the bottom, I think.
Yeah. Also, props to those two for the makeout.
That was interesting. I remember when we were producing, trying to find people that were willing. We're like, do we know of any couples?
Yeah.
We had to sit there for a hot minute trying to figure out who do we know.
Yeah.
And they both were like, yeah, sure, we're totally down for it. So we're like, perfect.
Yeah. And then they had a side conversation where they're like, we're going to make it as uncomfortable for them as possible. So they're like throwing tongue and like licking each other's faces. And we're all like, this is a good choice. This is a good casting choice. Because it's one thing where you're like, hey, to people in the film community I don't regularly hang out with or know super well, will you come do this cringy video about grandma stuff? Also, will you make out with someone on camera?
I remember you texted them both while we were having one of our meetings at a coffee shop.
Yeah.
And both of them were just game.
Don't approach actors that way.
Yeah, that's
Mason wrote the thing, so. Well, I guess let's talk about the kind of weird scheduling conflict that leads into what happened with the lasagna problem. We were trying to figure out if we're going to do the makeout scene first or the lasagna scene first. We ended up doing the lasagna scene. And what we didn't take into account was how much lasagna we're going to ask Mason to eat.
His character loves his grandma's lasagna. So he's shoveling so much into his mouth with every take. It's not just, a couple bites here and there. Huge.
Like falling off of the fork.
Yeah, and I think it just kept getting like more intense with each take too. So at a certain point, like he could not even hold it down anymore. And we had to like offer him a puke bucket because he couldn't get another bite in. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
I still can't eat lasagna.
No, me neither.
No, I need a break.
So another time, Mason took one for the team.
Yeah.
Earlier this year, we threw him through a table. And hit him with a car. Oh yeah, he's been doing all sorts of stuff this year.
Jeez. He went from that lasagna eating straight into the makeout scene, I think within about 30 minutes.
But we did ask him if he wanted to shoot it another night. We did give him that decision.
Yeah.
Do you want to wait 15? What do you need?
Mouthwash?
Yeah. How much time do you need? And he's like, I'm good, guys. I'm good. The sausage, you had cooked it before, but you needed it to be more pink.
I went through and rotoscoped the sausage and then like figure out what the color would look like. So there's a couple ones that we did that just looked so phony.
Yeah, and that was artificial, like bright neon pink, and I think you nailed the end color. It looks pretty raw. My dad thought it was real.
Yeah, and then those sound effects from Isaac really help, like with the squishiness. So what happened was I cooked the sausage so we can have it cooked for the throw up scene, which we started with. And then Mason had to cook the sausage, the only sausage we had, and it was more of a prop failure on my part. But the only sausage we had was the sausage that I brought. So he ended up cooking it even more on set while we were getting the shot. And then by the time it landed on Becca's plate, it was way overcooked, and we weren't going to get that joke across. At that point, we couldn't go buy sausage, so it was one of those fix it in post moments. Notes for next time. This ended up way cringier than I imagined in the writing room.
Again, and that's what is so cool about filmmaking is that you write one thing, but then it can be totally different when you're shooting it, and then when you put it together. That's why the more and more I get to be on sets and work on them, the more I understand the different quotes that people have. Like, you write one thing, you shoot one thing, and then you edit one thing. And then that's also why I understand why casting is so vitally important, because you have to trust that these actors are going to play to the character that you're writing, or that they might add more to the character that you hadn't seen before. Mason added some really good parts that weren't written.
He did.
Yeah. And it was amazing.
He did a couple little minor things, like added some like greasiness look to his hair, where it's kind of slicked to the side, parted down the middle. And he knew exactly what we were going for. So
Becca was really good with improv, because she was able to feed off of what Mason was improving.
Yes, yeah.
And that gelled really well.
I'm convinced Mason was like actively trying to throw her off, because like he threw out some of the most cringiest things you've seen in your life. Like he like touches her hair at one point.
Oh yeah, he like curls it or something.
And then he like tries to pick up the sausage, which is, we ended up using that in the final video. That song.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about like 90s grunge and like Pearl Jam right before that take, and he had just gone with that and started singing about sausage with this like Eddie Vedder voice, and I was just like, that's so cool.
Making some sausage, making some... Can we talk about Noah Reese's lighting? It has gotten so good.
Really
Holy
has.
crap.
It really has.
All of the morning stuff, it was the last stuff that we filmed. So we wrapped at 2 in the morning. So Noah Reese had to make 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. look like 8 in the morning.
Yeah. You nailed it.
He's Mr. Hotshot.
Which he probably doesn't like us vocalizing that he's a great gaffer, because he's like, I don't want to do it anymore,
I don't
guys.
want to do it. We're in a meeting the other day and we're like, would it help if we found another gaffer? And Noah's like, yeah, I think it would help. Yeah.
So if you're a good gaffer, please reach out to us.
But yeah, the best example of that is obviously back to back. We have the nighttime scene of them making out on the bed. It fades into the morning scene, and it really does look like night and day.
Yeah.
And he nailed it.
So to do that shot, we had to set up rack focus to them laying in bed without touching the camera. We had to get the actors to move, art deck what would be like after sex, so like the sock on the thing and the shirt hanging down. Yeah. And at the same time, Noah Reese has to change all the lighting in the room without touching the camera, because if that thing moves, we don't have our match cut anymore, and we have to relight and redo the first scene. So he had to do that like quick turnaround back to back, and that kid's just incredible. Yeah. Jesse, what was our time management issue?
We did not take into account how long it would take to do each scene, and the lighting changing. We knew going into it that it was going to be time crunching, but I don't think we really factored into what that actually looked like, how long each adjustment would take, which is a good lesson learned.
We ended up, us 3 meeting at like 12:30, 12:45, and just having an honest conversation of, well, we were trying to get to the fitness place that night, which means Josh would have to meet us at Team Rhino. We just sat down and we said, hey, once we finish here, it's going to be 2 a.m. and then it's going to be 2:30 by the time we get to Team Rhino. And then we have to art deck that whole thing that could take an hour. Yeah. And then we have to film everything, and it's 3-4 shots. I go, we're realistically going to be here till
5 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it's nice to learn how long each thing is going to take when we're on a budget that's free budget, basically. So we don't have to pay for the location. We can practice and learn our errors now.
That way it's not a big set and it's, well, now I got to fly Mason back into town next week to finish this scene or anything like that.
Or that we only had this location scheduled and reserved for this amount of time.
Right. Sorry, guys, you have to go till 5 a.m. in that case. But we ended up just scheduling a week later. We texted Josh and we said, go to bed, bud.
He was waiting up for us to give him a text.
And we met at like 2 o'clock the following Thursday and had a wonderful time filming during the day. Yeah. Jesse, tell us something that you learned about ADing.
Oh, man. This is my first time ADing. Getting to be bossy and having that be a good thing. Being able to be like, guys, we got 15 minutes or we got 20 minutes. As the AD, you have to be very on top of who's doing what we need for the next shot, so they don't have to worry about that. The director can focus on the scene, DP can work on the camera, and so then it's the AD's job to then remember what's the next thing, how much time we have for that, what we need to prepare for it, do we have the wardrobe, where is it? So that was kind of cool because your brain has to go all different directions. It's kind of fun. Yeah. But it was cool being able to play a part that really has nothing to do with the actual storytelling. It has to do with coordinating it. It's kind of cool.
As the director, I haven't really had someone to be keeping me on track like that. And so Jesse did a great job with just like telling me what time it was, just keep me on track, and even ask me questions about like, this actor said something this way and in the script it said this way. And so she was just trying to stick to the script as much as possible too. So that was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you. You guys are great to work with.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I hope we're not shitty.
Terrible.
Levi, what's something that you learned as a director this time? Anything new?
Well, going back to the lasagna eating with Mason, this was a new thing for me to see an actor go all into something that could make him sick or even be a choking hazard. And I should have stepped in and offered a puke bucket earlier, or said like, don't actually shove all this food in your mouth with every take. So it's like these things that I'm learning as I'm continuing to direct new things that I need to step in with more, and that was just a very new experience for me. So
all right, y'all, that's a wrap. Woo!
Getting to be all the different jobs on a set is really cool. And so I started off thinking that I wanted to be an actor, not saying that I don't want to be anymore, but people oftentimes think that if you're going to be in the entertainment industry, you have to be an actor. But there are so many different important skills and talents and jobs that are needed on a set. Being sound, having a good eye for lighting, figuring out those little details. If you're good at planning things, I mean, there are so many different important jobs that are needed on a set. And it's kind of cool to see how much each person is valued and needed. Even if you might not be on the front of the camera, you're still such a vital point of creating a film.
Yeah, as I've been directing more and more short films, I think I have gotten the awesome opportunity to just have a bigger and bigger crew. Not have to touch the camera or not having to go over and check how the audio is sounding after each take has just been awesome to work in a space where everyone is knowing what they need to do in a group setting, and help me as a director just focus on these guys' performances. And I think that's really going to continue to show as we continue to make these films.
So the next set of projects that we got going on, I'm really excited to show everyone Barry. Barry's coming up next. There's talks. We don't have anything officially set in stone, but we want to do a comedy about a serial killer. And then Brandon Freeman and I have been talking about a comedy about a superhero who takes Ubers to fight crime. So watch out for that one if we end up making it. I mean, things are loose and fast here at Story Driven, so.
Brandon is going to be the guest star, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Our first guest star.
Brandon's going to be our first guest star. Does he know that yet? No. Please go ahead and follow us on TikTok and Instagram. You'll see a lot of behind the scenes stuff on there, as well as a lot of how we did things and making of, and just keeping up to date. So get on over there and check it out.
Bye.
Bye.